is that we've not seen, heard any regulatory action on the fiscal side, on the monetary side. Why is that? We've not had any reassuring, any aggressive move or any indication from anyone which seems to be acknowledging and indicating that, look, this is a problem, we understand there's a problem, and extraordinary problems require extraordinary situation and extraordinary solution. Now, hiding under this entire cover of that oil is down, it's great for India and the world could hit recession and we will still grow is not good enough. Okay, Quess Corp is down 20% today, so I'm not going to create panic. Why? But I'm going to touch base with the management to understand that is it business as usual for Quess Corp. Suraj joins us now to take the conversation forward. Suraj, let's keep the stock market reaction separate. It could be institutional selling, it could be compulsive selling, it could be somebody who has redemption who's selling a stock down. What we want to understand from you is that you are in the staffing business. Staffing business is a business in which you hire people based on need from your clients. How has life changed for you in last 2 weeks or last 1 month?
Thanks, Nikuj, for having me on your show. I think we're living in Dickensian times, aren't we? The best of times, the worst of times. And where this goes is anyone's guess. Look, I mean, I'll try and give you a sense of what we're seeing, you know, as India's largest employer. You know, we do staffing both in IT and general staffing, but because we also have exposure to education through XLS, skills development, and to facilities management and security. So I'll try and give you a little bit of a sense of what we're seeing. I think what we're seeing now is, you know, we're certainly seeing that growth is difficult, but we're not seeing sort of need for panic yet from an employment perspective. You know, if anything, what we're finding is both our customers and us are really focusing on employee welfare. We find our customers are treating our employees as if they were their own. Most of them are actually most of our customers are asking us to put in place best practices around screening, around quarantining, social distancing, and so on and so forth. And actually, we've just today launching a website through Simpliance, which we hope will be helpful to our customers, and we're providing validated information on regulation in various cities, what people should be doing, best practices, because we find there's so much misinformation. Up to this point, and I must kind of emphasize this point, we've not seen any customer cancel or demobilize any part of their workforce. Okay. Now, obviously, there are parts of the workforce we don't see. We don't have small businesses as customers or SMEs. Our customers are largely large enterprise, but not a single one of our large enterprise customers have come to us to say it's time to demobilize. And typically we have a 15 to 30 day notice period before we do demobilize. And so I think we'd have a little bit of, you know, today 15 days is a luxury, I think, in the times we live in. What we are seeing is a couple of things though. We're seeing that, you know, where we have had, like we had a couple of employees quarantined yesterday, and our customer there said, look, you've got to treat them like they were our own. We'll pay for, you know, we'd like them to rest for 28 days, let them come back to work after that. Where malls have been shut, for example, in retail, our customers have treated our employees like their own, and we've not seen any of them lay off people so far. Okay. So I think if you look at sectors like BFSI and retail, which are maybe about, let's say, you know, about 25-30% of the flexi staffing industry. So far, we're just seeing customers hold fort and say, look, we're not going to backfill attrition. By the way, it's difficult to backfill attrition. At the same time, we're seeing attrition come down because nobody wants to leave their jobs in this kind of environment. So it's sort of staying status quo. Now, were this to extend for a month, would things change? Possibly. But I wouldn't want to hazard a guess on where that goes. I think, you know, there's a couple of other interesting sectors like logistics, which is typically about logistics and e-commerce, which is maybe about 15 to 20% of the flexible staffing industry, where we're actually seeing that some players are actually ramping up. So we're finding that around delivery, e-commerce delivery specifically, the peak, which usually starts in June, is starting 2 months early, obviously because people are at home and are not going to the shops, as frequently. Will that partly make up for the slowdown in growth elsewhere? Maybe, but it's difficult to say to what extent. There's two other sectors that I'd probably touch upon quickly. I think one is ITES, IT/ITES. There again, we are not seeing any demobilization so far. We are seeing some pockets where demand is coming in. For example, earlier people who wanted permanent staff are now saying, well, just give me temporary staff for the time being because I don't know how long I will have this demand for this person. We're seeing some US-based operations wanting to ramp up their GCCs in India, and there's some demand coming from there. But at the same time, I think walk-ins are much more difficult, and so hiring people is more difficult, and we're switching to video as quick as we can to keep that moving forward. And they will.
Right. Okay, Suraj, what are the chances that you've not heard anything from your clients right now, because everyone is in a shock mode? Organizations right now are trying to quarantine their employees. They have implemented work at home practices. So it's about safety. It's not about business assessment. When things come back to normal, let's hope they come back to normal soon. That's the time the bad news will start coming out. Right now, no bank is telling me about NPA problem, but I can see an NPA problem and a retail delinquency is coming. Today it is not. Today nobody's talking about it, but soon, when the Pandora box will open up, it's going to start hitting us.
Yeah. No, look, I think that's a very fair question. Our sense on this, and we're talking to our customers every day. We're staying very close to them. It doesn't feel to us like customers are going, like companies, Indian corporates are going into COVID with very, very high levels of staffing each in the first place. Right? I think Quess has grown over the last quarters really by introducing new customers. So I think corporates were in general sensing that the economy was slowing in a sense, and we've seen this. So this is. Are we ramping down from an exuberant economy where people overstaffed? I don't think so, right? I think in several areas, if you look at facilities management and security and so on and so forth, I think those are just basic levels that people need. So will we see pressure as things come up? I have no doubt. Will that translate into significant layoffs? As we do our own work also for our own annual planning, I don't think it's going to be significant, Nikunj. At least I hope it's not. Given that would just worsen the social impact of what's happening.
Hi, Avan, as well joining in. The situation from where we're staring at it does look rather grim at a time like this, because we're talking about the work from home culture, the don't step out of your house, self-quarantine, etc. So I'd imagine that at a time like this, the situation would be worsening when it comes to by this. So just want to understand, are there going to be any sorts of salary cuts or across the sector? Is there going to be some sort of, are we going to see that play out as the situation as well as only developing and only worsening?
Yeah. I think that maybe one lens through which to look at this is, if to demobilize employees, you need to give them 15 to 30 days of notice. And I think at this point, I don't think any company has that kind of visibility to say, if I pay salaries for the next month, what happens when I need to reopen my shops or start my beats on the street again? I need those people to keep going. So I think at this point, most of our customers are sort of saying, let's watch and wait and let's see. I think suddenly if everything shuts down for a month or 2 months, I think we could be dealing with a very different situation. I don't deny that. What I certainly hope is that, before we get to that, I hope number one, we get some guidance from the government on how to think about employment in this time. And number two, I think that, I hope that we can have a conversation about actually cutting wages so that people take something home rather than kind of having a large chunk of them without jobs.
Okay, just a quick word on the overseas markets like Singapore. How has that been impacted?
Singapore. So as you know, we've got operations across APAC, Singapore, Manila, Malaysia, a little bit in Vietnam. Singapore has stayed flattish through this period. I mean, there was a week when it was a little bit shaky, but overall it stayed flattish. I think, the government has handled it well. We've stuck with a 1/2, and we're still working with 1/2. And it seems like, it doesn't seem like the economy is going to panic from where we can see right now. I think Manila has been a very recent development. 2 days ago, it went into quarantine. At this point, we've got a BPO operation there. The government is permitting BPO operations to continue, although transportation for our workers is something that we're working through. And we have a local staffing business of which 85% of people are actually working from home sustainably. So I think there's a 15% on the margins issue, which we're hoping does get solved, right? But I think I think your point on were this to continue for 2 months more, 1 month more, what would happen? I think that's something we need to start thinking about, and I think that's a social issue as much as it is an economic issue.
All right. We'll just have to wait and watch. Hope to interact with you later on as well. But Suraj, for now, thanks much for giving us an assessment. So, not unexpected lines, actually, the management of Quess Corp as of now is saying that not a single large enterprise client has asked for demobilization of jobs or has been laying off staff. But as the situation worsens, that is something that they will be thinking of. And in fact, for e-commerce and logistics, they have in fact seen a ramp up due to the deliveries. But the stock price is telling quite a different story, 19% down in today's trading session at 304. The rest of the market, as well as we speak, is in complete panic mode, 85.77 on the frontline index. That's nothing short of a 4% crack. You've seen some very crucial psychological levels being broken on the downside, and it's across the board as well that the panic seems to have spread. 6% cut being seen on the small and the mid caps. A lot of hefty blue chips as well have been punished. Sectors like the Nifty Bank are now, well below the kind of lows that we had witnessed just in the last month, below those March 13th lows. Take a look at IndusInd Bank, that stock down most since its IPO. Bharti Infratel, ditto for that one. The Nifty market cap is down nearly 2 lakh in today's trading session. And the likes of HDFC, Kotak, Bajaj Finance as well, market cap erosion of nearly 20,000 crore rupees. So looking at a fairly bleak picture. And Nikunj, it's fairly evident. Okay, tell you what, let's just take a quick break right here on the show. We'll be assessing the markets when we return.